Hey, welcome into Understanding Football. I'm Joel Klatt. This is the second of a two-part video on the passing game. We're installing some passing concepts. If you haven't watched the first video, please go back and check that one out. It was on quick game, 3-step, 1 step out of the shotgun, how to get the ball out of the hands of the quarterback quickly. In this video, we're going to talk about drop-back passing. We got 3 concepts that I'm going to go over. I'm going to teach you exactly what they are. I'm going to teach you how they work and why they would be good for a quarterback and why they would like to run them. So that's what we're going to do in this video. And also, this is our third video in Understanding Football. I'm going to be touching on some coverage terms and coverages in general. I would highly recommend going back and checking out the first video in our series because I do talk about coverage and all the defensive coverages that I'm talking about in these videos. But with all that being said, let's get started. And I'm going to start with one of my favorites. It's called Hank. So this is Hank, and remember, I'm teaching concepts, not the formation, not the personnel group, and not the protection. So what you have to understand first and foremost is that once you learn this picture and concept called Hank, we can run it out of several different looks, many different looks. It can be all sorts of different personnel groups. It can be all sorts of different formations or movements and motions and shifts. But in the end, what I'm going to get as a quarterback is this picture. So let's talk about what it is. Hank, first and foremost, becomes a full field read. So this is only read after the snap. I'm not going to choose a side as a quarterback. I'm going to read Hank as Hank every time, regardless of coverage. So I don't really need to know how many safeties are back there. I don't really need to know if it's man or zone, although that would be helpful, and I'm always going to identify that. But all you need to know is that my eyes are always and forever on Hank going to go to the tight end or the over-the-ball route first. So the first thing that we've got to understand is on Hank, the Hank route is number 1, and he's running this between 8 to 10 yards down the field right over the ball, and he's always settling. And I'm going to teach you why he's always settling in a moment. But first, you have to understand, he's running up there and boom, he's settling. Now, what happens on the outside, on each side, is that we've got a curl-flat combination. Curl-flat meaning that you've got a curl and you've got a flat on each side. Now, how do you get to each of those sides? That's the issue. Because you're not deciding before the snap as a quarterback, you're actually deciding after the snap. And my eyes always go to number 1 first, and that's the Hank route over the ball. So how in the world do I process after the tight end? Let's say he gets covered. It depends on who covers him. There's always going to be linebackers in the middle of the field. So if somebody covers the Hank route, then they're basically going to what? Grab him. And I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about like in coverage. They're going to attach or cover the Hank route. What I'm going to do as a quarterback is I'm going to read curl flat to the side that he gets covered. So there's multiple linebackers in the field. Let's say these 2 linebackers like this in the middle of the field. Let's just say for the sake of argument, this linebacker that he kind of runs across his face, he's the one that covers him or attaches to the tight end. I'm going to ask you now, what side do I read? Correct. I'm going to the side of the catch. So now I'm reading to the left side, and I've got 2 to the curl, 3 to the flat. This is why I love this play. I've got answers as a quarterback. So all I've got to do is come out, bang, I'm taking a 5-step drop. On my 5th step, that tight end should be turning around. If the linebacker's split and he's open and I can give him the ball, boom, he gets the ball immediately and I'm framing him up. Okay, that ball is going right on his frame. This is great on 3rd down, 3rd and 6. Running Hank like this is such a great strategy because that linebacker generally won't attach to the tight end. Now, he does sometimes, but I'm going to generally get that tight end. Hank, boom. If I get an attached linebacker, I'm reading curl flat to the side of the attached linebacker. It's very simple. So now I'm coming back and I get an attach. So now I'm going to close up. Close meaning I'm going to take a hitch step. Because remember, if I'm throwing Hank, I'm going to throw it on the 5th step. Boom. If I'm throwing curl flat, I'm going to take a hitch step. I don't have Hank. And now I step up. A hitch step means I step up in the pocket and I step up and I hitch up. And now I'm reading curl to flat. And I'm high to low based on these defenders on the outside. And it's just a progression read on that side. If the curl is open, he gets the ball right on his frame. If he's not, I go to the flat. And if he's not open, now I'm running for my life on either side because I don't have that bona fide check down. Remember what I talked about in that first passing game concept video, though. What I can't do as a quarterback is go backwards in the progression. So what I can't do is come out, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to read that Hank route. I don't like it. I got a backside attached. Now I'm curled to flat. I can't go, oh, let me go back to Hank. No, because you can't throw the ball late over the middle. You just can't. I can't go to the flat and then back to the curl because now I'm late and the corner is closing. So once I leave a man in my progression, I've got to continue. Never go backwards. It's a cardinal sin for a quarterback. This is a great concept and a simple concept, in particular on 3rd down, because you've got 3 routes that will likely get past the sticks. And even if you've got to throw it to one of those flat routes, you've got an opportunity for him to get up the sideline and potentially get that conversion. So I've got 3rd and 5, got 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. What do I want to hear as a quarterback? How about this? Let's go solo right off. 75, Hank. You don't need to know anything else except for Hank right now. I'll teach you all of those formations and personnel groups in a later video. So our next downfield passing concept is going to be drive. All right, now drive can be run out of a lot of different formations, but generally speaking, it's best out of a 3-by-1, 3 receivers to one side, 1 on the other. Now, in drive, because it's in a 3-by-1, you can always tag on the back side, and I'll get to all of that in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at drive. So here's the concept drive, and this one is run by almost every single offense, and once you understand what drive is, it usually becomes a quarterback's favorite because there are a ton of answers in this concept. Okay, so what is it? So first of all, let me just explain that drive is just the foundation here, and it's this triangle in the middle of the field. Okay, so that's drive, is that middle triangle. Now, what it is you've got a shallow cross route coming from this side right here. So that's the driver. He's the drive route. And then when you run drive, you've also got the basic from the tight end or the number 3 wide receiver on that side, the basic kind of that over route right there from the same side as the driver. If they were coming from opposite sides of the ball, so you had like the drive coming this way and then the basic coming the other way, that would be called shallow cross. It's just a different way to get into a similar picture. What I'm explaining here is drive, where they're both coming from the same side, okay? So let's talk about the foundation first. Let's talk about drive. Drive is a 7-step read, okay? So I'm gonna take a quick 7 and close because I've got my guy coming all the way across the formation and I don't want to put my eyes or I don't want to read this until he gets all the way outside. I'm not trying to throw this ball to the driver right here or right here, okay? I want to let him develop the picture and the spacing of the concept to get over to at least this spot over here. All right, so now we've got 1 right there. Now, he's got a conversion in his route based on coverage. If it's zone, he is going to hook up, which is why you've got that little hookup. Then the dotted arrow is man. It's man, and he's running away from man. One of the keys in that route is if I've got my drive route coming across the field as a quarterback, if he's going to sit down, I want to see his chest right here. If I see his chest, I see his numbers. Now I know what his read is, and we're on the same page, and I know he's going to sit down in that backside hole right over here as he gets all the way across that formation, and he's going to be right over there on that side, and he's number 1. If he's not going to sit, I want to see his chin and his shoulder like this. I need to see his shoulder, not his chest. you can't give me a false read. If you're a wide receiver out there, you can't give me as a quarterback the false read. You can't show me your chest and then run. There can be no indecision. You're either sitting or you're running based on those body postures going across the field. The number 2 man in the progression on drive is this basic route. And a basic route has no conversions versus open. He's always going to be running this kind of like what I would call a small dig, or as like I said, a basic route from a tight end. Now, he's also got the same rules. He's going to sit versus zone and run versus man. So that's why you see that little hitch in the route right there. Okay, and he's number 2. And it's the exact same thing. I need to either see numbers or chin and a shoulder from my number 2 guy up on top. And then number 3 is the back after he checks in protection, and he's number 3. So there's drive. I've got this triangle read, and it's red, low to high, and then you're back down here to the check down on a 7-step clock. All right, versus zone, I'm getting a sit down, I'm getting a sit down, and I'm getting a sit down. Versus man, I'm getting a run, and then a burst. Out here, burst from a back means that he's a check down. He's going to check in protection, and rather than just sitting there, he's going to burst away from the defender. So that's drive. All right. Well, does it work against every coverage? Yeah, it kind of does. But now I can tag it with the X, and I'm going to throw a possible alert out here with the outside wide receiver. And this is when it gets really, really fun. So the first thing you have to understand, if it's not tagged, now this outside receiver on this side over here, he has to run the bus ticket release. Remember, I talked about that in the 3-step video on why stick, where he's got to get outside. Why? Because I've got 2 different guys running that direction. So I've got to get the corner's eyes turned outside. So if he's not tagged, he's running an outside release go on that side. Now, he can be alerted. An alerted meaning that I can be pulled as a quarterback away from the drive concept. If he's in bump or jam coverage, primarily bump, it's one-on-one and I like my matchup. And he's running a go ball right there. So I'm like, well, shoot. I've got Marvin Harrison, Jeremiah Smith, he's down there. So I've got drive over here. I know I can always play drive, but look at that matchup. I've got an alert over there. I've got to be like a possible alert pre-snap where I'm looking over there and I'm like, I can throw a go ball over there. Or we can tag the X into an out route, curl route, but primarily something out breaking because you don't want him bringing eyes back in here to the middle of the field. So it's usually like an out route. So this could be like drive X out, drive X bench. A bench is just like a small little comeback at 12 yards. These are all terms that you could throw out there, and you could run an X tag. And then the same X tag principles would apply as they did in quick game. Remember, go back and watch that video. What did I tell you? If you've got one-on-one in the X tag side, then you play the X tag. So it's all matchup based. Because remember, the set is 3 wide receivers to one side and 1 to the other. So you're forcing the defense to commit to either double covering your best wide receiver or having more people there for a foundational play like drive. This is why I would love to have X tag. Now, there's another alert, and it's a big alert, and I love it. My guy up here. If the alert into the boundary is based on corner technique, the alert to the field or the wide side is based on coverage. Those are 2 different things. So this is a coverage structure alert. You have to go back and watch the first video when I discuss quarters coverage, cover 4. Because if I walk up to the line of scrimmage as a quarterback and we've got drive X tag or just drive, I know that I always have a coverage alert on the top of drive, and it only works against quarters, cover 4. Why? Well, remember in that video I talked about the pattern read safety and how the pattern read safety is going to sit or cover a vertical route that comes straight at him from number 2 or who becomes the number 2 release? Remember that coaching point? Well, now guess what? We get the safety right here to sit. And when the safety sits on the tight end because the vertical release is right into his face, guess who's not over the top? The safety. And so now I can throw that post versus quarters. Okay, so let's recap here. I'm the quarterback, and I've got this play on. Now, this play, as it's called in the huddle, would be, let's see, it would be tray right zip, 2-jet Z drive, X out. I come up to the line of scrimmage. I've got X out, I've got an X tag. Do I have a one-on-one? No, I don't have a one-on-one. All right, well now what's the coverage? Because I have a coverage alert. It's cover 4. Woo, it's cover 4, you bet. Let's go. So now I'm 1 to the alert. This is pre-snap. Now I'm 2 to the basic right down here, and I'm 3 to the check down right in front of my eyes, which is still the back. All right, now I come up. I don't have a one-on-one with my X tag, and now it's cover 2. I don't have a quarter safety. What do? I read drive. What's drive, Joel? What's the triangle read? Read low to high right over the football. And now I'm going to see if it's man or zone. Am I going to sit or I'm going to run? Am I going to sit or I'm going to run with the basic? And I've got to check down possibly with a burst versus man coverage. So I have answers as a quarterback. This is why I love these types of concepts, even in drop back passing game, is that it doesn't matter what the defense does. Now, I haven't gotten into protection, and yes, there can be protection issues, and I can tell you where I'm hot or who I'm going to throw to based on a blitz, but right now we're just learning the concept and the picture. And this concept and picture is drive with an X tag. All right, let's get into the last drop back pass concept that I want to talk about in this video. And remember, please go check out the other videos. We got part 1 of the passing game, the quick game. We've got the coverages out there. And as always, just leave us your thoughts there. I want to get into all go. This is my favorite. Now, if you do know football, you're going to immediately say to yourself, like, Joel, that's cheating. That's not technically all go. You're right. This is technically all go special. And the reason that it's special is because it's out of a 3-by-1 set, not a 2-by-2 set. Okay, 2-by-2 would just have the tight end or a second wide receiver on the left side. But you have to understand that whether it's all go or all go special, it's the same thing. It's 4 vertical routes. I'm getting everybody running go routes. Okay, and whether it's special out of 3-by-1 or it's regular all go out of 2-by-2, it's read the same for the quarterback. So remember when I told you, and I keep saying this, that it doesn't matter what personnel group we're in, it doesn't matter what formation we're in, that the picture, the concept is the same for the quarterback. So I can now run all go or all go special out of a number of different sets or looks, and it looks different for the defense, and it's the same for me as a quarterback. Simplicity for me and something that's hard for the defense. That's what we're after. Okay, so here's what we got. Now let's run it out of the same 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. We're going to be out of the shotgun in this one. So this is zebra group in the West Coast offense. This is 11 personnel out of a regular personnel offense. And we've got our 3-by-1. And it's static, meaning that I don't have any motion here. So static meaning that it's still, okay? So we've got 4 verticals. Okay, where do we start? The first thing that you've got to do as a quarterback is that you've got to understand, is the coverage open or is it closed? Okay, so we're back to that. So here we go. Let's start with this. Closed is the middle, and open, I'm going to put it on this left side. Open, closed. I don't necessarily care which coverage it is as much as it is about the nature of, is it open or is it closed? The middle of the field, meaning the middle of the field. Do I have 2 safeties up here, meaning the middle of the field is open, or do I have 1 safety in the middle of the field? Okay, that's going to determine how I read and what the progression is for all go. All right, now let's talk about if it's open, the first thing. Okay, now this is the simplified version, and I'm just gonna, for the sake of an argument, let's kind of like remove this go route right here, and really this entire side. I wanna make a foundation that is a 3-man progression where I can make a specific defender wrong. Okay, well, versus open coverage, now I've got a safety over here on that left side, okay? And I wanna make this guy wrong with my read. So the way that I do that is I read inside out, 1 to that diagonal, 2 to that go, and 3 to the check down below. A couple of things that I just have to stress here is this bender or this go route that's going across the field towards that hash. he's got two things that he really needs to take care of. Number one is he's got to get on top of that linebacker to his side. He can't run underneath him, because if he runs underneath him, now the picture gets squeezed, and this far side safety or weak side safety doesn't really have to move in order to cover both guys, because the route, if he goes under, gets squeezed too far over to that short side. I don't want that as a quarterback. So it's really important that he gets on top of that linebacker, and he gets on top and then starts to bend it right over the field. Because now that safety, he's got some stress. He's got to think to himself, like, do I need to be over here with eyes on the three receiver side? What do I have from a matchup over here into usually the short side of the field if it's 3-by-1? And now it's very simple as a quarterback. I'm just going to make that safety wrong. It's open coverage. I go 2 up on the safety, and I just read it inside out. Where's the safety? Make him wrong. So now I'm going to use my eyes. If he wants to hang on that hash, keep him there. Stare at the tight end, and then boom, you can throw that, what I would call kind of like that whole shot go right over here to the outside. If he wants to get a little bit of width right away, take him that way with your eyes. 5-step drop, take him over there. Yeah, come on, I'm going to stare at that go route, and then I come right back to the seam, and I'm hitting him right down the hash. Okay, so I'm 2 up on what is becoming now the short side safety. All right, that's versus open coverage. So I bet you know exactly what I'm going to say when I talk about closed coverage, right? We're going to go 2 up on the middle safety. It's very simple. Very simple for a quarterback. Very difficult for a defense. Now here's my safety. Let's make him wrong. Where's my 2 up? Right down the middle. I got 2 up against the middle safety. I'm making him wrong. It's 1, 2, and 3 to the check down. Same rule applies for this tight end who's running. He's got to get on top of the linebacker in order to grab the eyes of the safety and hopefully drag him across the field. And then really the one that you want is that hole shot. Hole shot meaning like you're kind of driving the football 18 to 20 yards down the field. You're not trying to throw it with a lot of air. You're not throwing it 40 yards down the field. You're driving the football kind of in the hole or in the vulnerability of the defense right in the seam. That's when it really becomes good as a quarterback. The clock for me is big 5 and close. I'll go over that at a different time in terms of the clock, but basically I'm going to take 5 steps as a quarterback from under center, and then I'm going to close up and I'm going to read that middle field player. 2 up on the middle third. Now, there's a couple of dotted lines out here that you might be wondering yourself, like, well, wait, why do you have these dotted lines? Well, when you do get a closed look like this, generally speaking, you get free access corners. Again, you've got to go check out the first video in our Understanding Football sequence when I talked about coverage, because all of these terms now are going to make more sense to you. Remember what a free access corner is. It's a corner out here that has deep responsibility. Okay, and if you get a middle field closed, the nature of that defense is probably going to be, whether it's man or whether it's zone, is that these corners have deep responsibility on the outside. When those corners have deep responsibility on the outside, you don't really want to drag those corners down the field when you're trying to throw seam routes right down the middle of the field, because you could potentially be dragging those corners into a place where they can fall off and make a play. Fall off meaning get off of their route and potentially cover that seam route 20 yards down the field. So, versus middle closed, free access corners, I want to run comebacks or little, like, not little, but like dropout routes right here. So that if the corner falls off and he comes up here and covers this guy right here, now I can just throw the dropout. So that conversion happens versus a coverage that's specific to middle closed defense. So now I'm not running 4 verticals, I'm running 2 verticals and 2 dropouts. But remember, if it's open, I need all my verticals because we're going 2 up on the safety on each side. I have seen some teams, if their quarterback's arm is strong enough versus open coverage, read the wide side over here. I don't see it a lot. Generally speaking, you read the short side versus open, you read the middle versus closed, and my check down is always over the ball. This is my favorite concept. I'll run it out of 1,000 different formations. I hope to run it 5 to 8 times per game. There's an answer for every single coverage. It's a way to get the ball down the field really force the issue against safeties in particular. If you're getting heavy run defense, we can get the ball out of my hands fairly quick because it's a 5 and close and the ball can come out. So again, all go special is one of my favorites. So that's going to wrap it up for our downfield passing video. And listen, you've got to go back and watch everything, and then everything starts to make sense in sequence, from coverage to quick game to now drop back game. Now, I'd love your thoughts on what you thought of all this, and then I'd also love to know what you want to hear or learn about next. Obviously, I've got a bunch of ideas, but what do you want to hear from us here on our series of Understanding Football?